I'm Dr. Winnie King, and I'm here in the lobby of the Children's Hospital at Montefiore in New York City, so you can expect to hear some noise in the background. Raising a child is always hard. How much harder is it for parents if their child has a chronic illness or disability? On an earlier show, we spoke to some kids with chronic illness, and they gave us an idea of what it's like for them.
But there's some kids that treat me as if I was a baby, and some kids that don't even acknowledge me. The kids that treat me as a baby, they're babies themselves. They're around like 12 or 9. But I let them know when they tell me, oh my God, look how cute she is. She gets mad too. I let them know just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean that I'm a baby. I'm 14 years old. I'm old enough to be your sister.
We try to be normal. We are normal physically, but, you know, we're not.
It's really scary when you're first diagnosed because you have no idea what's going to happen, but then you learn to live with that. You learn about your illness and you learn what might happen, but you become very strong. And I think one of the reasons that we get so frustrated with being thought of as people who are sick or pitied is because it kind of takes away from how tough we are. We are all very, very strong, and that's what helps to keep us positive.
In that show, we talked a lot about how strong the kids are. Today, we're going to explore what it's like for their parents and find out how to make the parents' lives easier. And we had the chance to visit a parent support group to hear firsthand about their ups and downs. Here's their story.
When I came here the first time, it was hard for me because I have a lot of depression, because I cannot understand why me, why I have a child is autistic. Everything is fine, my body was fine. I cannot understand why.
I also was preparing for a healthy baby too, and I had a healthy baby for a year and a half. And after a year and a half, I noticed my son was just going backwards, not forwards, regressing. And it is a shock. You're trying to see who you're going to blame.
I just said that, you know, why is God doing this to me? But then my sister, Deborah, she said, you know, well, why not you?
Your friends disappear. It's like, where are your friends? His godmother, all these people that used to be there, it's like they're gone, but, you know, it's okay. And we just take it one day at a time.
We all become specialists because we become doctors, we become nurses, we become teachers. And the reason I say teachers is because we have to teach everyone. We have to teach everyone about our child, about what they are and who they are and what they can do, what they can't do.
And I think something that we as mothers always carry, you know, have in the back of our heads is that if we're not here, who's going to take care of our children?
When I first found out about the parent support group, I'm like, okay, I'll go try it out, you know. And I walk in here, and I walked in there feeling like I was the only one in the world going through this. And I come in here, and we all felt the same way.
I'm glad for a group like this. This is a tremendous blessing because besides all the things that are going on in our lives, we need a place where we can go, where we can share our experiences with people who understand. And then that'll give us strength to share them with people who don't understand.
This is my therapy.
Yeah, I know. So you know, we're going to find you.
But you know, I learned from Nereida a lot. I learned from Virginia. I learned from Shamala. You real, I'm real. Everybody's real. And now we laughing.
It makes me feel good that I'm actually here because I know I can trust everybody here. And if I tell you something, you'll all understand one way or the other. So I'll come out, I'll let it all out, I'll cry and everything, and I'm over it. Because it's like, you know what? I'm not alone. I'm not the only one.
Here with us now are Dr. Henry Adams. He's a pediatrician with the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, and he's been taking care of children with chronic illnesses for 20 years. And Dr. Arlene Goldsmith, she's the executive director of New Alternatives for Children. This is a social service agency that serves these kids. And we have Nereida Feliciano. She is the mother of Precious, who is 14 years old and has spinal muscular atrophy. Now, you just heard her talking about her disability just a moment ago. Let's start with you, Nereida. Did you have those feelings of guilt when you first heard about your daughter's diagnosis?
Yes. At first, when I first learned about my daughter's diagnosis, yes, I had those guilt. I also blamed myself for her condition. And it's simply because parents, when they first learn about their child's condition, they're looking for the answer to the question, which is why my child? Why has this happened to my child? And in the process of looking for the answer, you begin to feel guilty and you start blaming yourself because in reality, there is no answer. And I feel that parents, when they feel that way, they should be able to go and speak to a parent who actually is going through what we're going through.
Sure, it makes
you
such
know?
a big difference.
And even a support group.
Sure.
As you see, the support group, we all can relate to one another, and we all can acknowledge our concern, and we don't feel less alone.
Yes. Is that why you started the support group?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Actually, there was one of the parents that inspired me who came in here, and she was such a total mess. And I went and I spoke to my supervisor, and I told her, listen, I believe that we have a need here.
And so you were able to kind of bring it together and
Yes.
make it happen.
Yes.
Arlene, how do you help parents get past the guilt and the big why question that's always there?
Well, I think the most important thing really is to focus on support groups and get our parents to meet with other parents who are going through the same thing. A social worker or a psychiatrist or a psychologist can be there to assist, but really it's the help from other parents. The other thing I think you have to do is look at the strengths of the kids and kind of focus on that as the children are growing, and also to be good to yourselves and do something for yourselves every once in a while, which could be a massage, or it could
just
be
anything. Just something
to
personal
get out.
just for you.
Because the amount of medical appointments that these kids have, what parents are going to, is just onerous. I don't know how some of our parents really do that. So you need time out. Also, extended family is very important to have support, friends.
Yeah, just having people around you. Well,
Right.
let's talk about the medical appointments, you know, the medical decision making that has to happen. What's the parent's role in all of that, Henry?
Well, the parent's role is at the center. Again, we talked about this when we had the show with the children, that for all of us, what this is really about is not taking care of an illness, it's taking care of a child. I mean, we don't want to treat diabetes, we don't want to treat sickle cell anemia, we want to take care of Precious. And Precious lives within a social environment that's centered in her family. And so if we don't involve the family in the care of Precious and in making decisions about how Precious best will grow and develop, then we're missing the whole point of what this is really about.
Well, with Precious, she's a young woman. She's 14 years old. And, you know, as a teenager, of course, it's only natural. Any teenager wants to start taking control over their lives. How does that impact children that have chronic illnesses?
Well, I think in the context we're talking about now of parenting, it's another burden that Rita is going to have to face. As hard as it is for all of us to allow our children who don't have special health problems to become more independent as they get older, it's even more difficult for the parents of children who have health-threatening, life-threatening conditions to let those children establish their own independence, but they have to do it.
Right. Well, you know, often I've experienced this with children that are diabetic, for example, that stop taking their insulin, just as a means of sort of taking control. Have you found that to be the case where kids will sometimes, just to get control over this?
Oh, it's the rule,
stop.
not the exception.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's part of that growing process. And I think what's part of what's most threatening to children as they develop maturity and try to deal with their illness is the loss of control that the illness represents for them. And as they go, particularly as they go through adolescence, it's trying to get some sense of control, some sense of mastery, and oftentimes that manifests itself in a way that at face value we would say is maladaptive, but really stopping your medicine.
Sure.
But in fact is really part of a normal developmental process almost.
Well, Arlene, one of the things that kids will often complain about is that their parents just baby them so much. They won't let go. They won't let them get out there and do the things that they want to do.
Yeah.
How do you help parents with that?
Well, I think that happens with all kids, whether or not they have a chronic illness or a disability. But I think parents need to help their kids to be as independent as possible, and that can mean helping them be travel trained so that they can go on their own. And you've got to just take a very, very big, deep breath and say, it's okay, you need to go, because these kids eventually are going to have to be on their own, and they need to have that kind of feeling and sense of independence, and we need to help kids to do that.
Yeah. Well, Nareda, in your family, besides Precious, you have two other children.
Right.
How do they interact with Precious?
Well, Destiny, it's 9, and I have a 2-year-old whose name is Joelle. Destiny and Precious, they constantly fighting.
Are they really?
Yes. I mean, they love each other, but they constantly fighting, just like any other Any other sisters.
So
would.
the gloves are off.
Yes.
There's no, well, we're not going to get into it with her because she's in a wheelchair.
Yes. No, not at all. Not at all. She's like, I'm going to pull your hair. And she goes, well, I'm going to pull yours back. You know, and actually this morning they had an argument over a pencil. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. A pencil? It's my pencil, she goes. And the other one said, no, I lent it to her. I mean, for the silliest things, they're always fighting.
Now, this sounds like very normal fighting between
exactly.
siblings.
Yes.
So you don't see a feeling of jealousy on the part of your siblings, your children that don't have a disability?
Well, yes, I do see some type of jealousy.
What do they say? How do you know?
Because actually Destiny, who's my 9-year-old, she's in the middle. Joel, not so much because he's young. He doesn't know as of yet. But Destiny says things like, I think you love Precious more than I do.
Right, well, she gets a lot of attention because you're taking her to the doctor, she's got a lot of medical checkups, and so you spend more time with her.
Exactly, but I try to spend also time with Destiny. What I do is I arrange time for me and Destiny alone. Okay. So I say, okay, Destiny, today is mine and your day. It's Mommy and Destiny's day. So I would take her anywhere where she want to go, whether it's to a movie, to McDonald's, to amusement park, and it'll be just me and her.
Right. But, just to give her that little special time.
But it's never enough.
Of course not. It's never, ever, ever enough. But Arlene, how do you help parents deal where there's one child who has a disability and other kids that need to interact with them?
Right. We have developed a sibling program because we have felt and we have seen, like you're saying, that siblings are at risk of all kinds of problems later in life if it hasn't been dealt with. Some of our kids become parentified so that they take on a parent role of a child with a disability, and some other children on the other way become very, very jealous. So we had Achilles race, for example, in Central Park once, and it was freezing cold. It was like below zero, and the older child took off his gloves and gave it to the child who was in the wheelchair, and then he had nothing, and you could see how parentified that particular child was. So we have sibling groups where the children come in once a week and meet with a social worker and talk about some of the feelings and some of the issues that they face every day, particularly because parents are going to bring their children to a hospital.
Well, that's
for a
great
deal.
that there's something there to help those siblings. Henry, what would your biggest advice be for parents raising kids with a chronic illness?
It's hard to pick one thing. There are so many issues. I mean, one is take care of yourself. That if you don't get the care that you need, then you're not there in your entirety for your child, and so you need to get care for yourself. Yeah. The other is to appreciate the normal things, the strengths of your child, and again, to understand that what you're dealing with is your child, not your child's illness. That the bottom line is making your child whole. Well, I think that's such wonderful
advice, really not getting so focused on the illness that you stop seeing the child, because ultimately it's the child that you're really going to have to deal with. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing your insights today. Now, there are some helpful resources for parents, such as the New Alternatives for Children, and their website is nac-inc.org. There's also the Association for the Care of Children's Health, and their website is acch.org. Thanks so much for watching today. We love seeing you. I'm Dr. Winnie King, and we'll see you next time on Keeping Kids Healthy.
So I'm old enough to be a sister.
We try to be normal. We are normal physically, but we're not.
It's really scary when you're first diagnosed because you have no idea what's going to happen, but then you learn to live with that. You learn about your illness and you learn what might happen, but you become very strong. And I think one of the reasons that we get so frustrated with being thought of as people who are sick or pitied is because
Hello, I'm Dr. Winnie King, and I'm here in the lobby of the Children's Hospital at Montefiore in New York City, so you can expect to hear some noise in the background. Raising a child is always hard. How much harder is it for parents if their child has a chronic illness or disability?
it kind of takes away from how tough we are. We are all very, very strong, and that's what helps to keep us positive.
In that show, we talked a lot about how strong the kids are. Today, we're going to explore what it's like for their parents and find out how to make the parents' lives easier. And we had the chance to visit a parent support group to hear firsthand about their ups and downs. Here's their story.
When I came here the first time,
on an earlier show, we spoke to some kids with chronic illness, and they gave us an idea of what it's like for them.
But there's some kids that treat me as if I was a baby, and some kids that don't even acknowledge me. The kids that treat me as a baby, they babies themselves. They're around like 12 or 9. But I let them know when they tell me, oh my God, look how cute she is. She gets mad too. I let them know just because I'm in a wheelchair doesn't mean that I'm a baby. I'm 14 years.
it was hard for me because I have a lot of depression, because I cannot understand why me, why I have a child is autistic. Everything is fine, my body was fine. I cannot understand why.
I also was preparing for a healthy baby too, and I had a healthy baby for a year and a half. And after a year and a half, I noticed my son was just going backwards.